Hello, welcome back to the Haven Community Inside the Teenage Mind. This podcast is designed to help the teenage society and community deal with emotional struggles and problems that are common in our world today. We provide stories and solutions in which we can continue to build each other up and find ways where we can get through emotional toils. My name is Nathan Lim, president of the Haven Community.
I'm Saibrinda Kotthru, the Executive Vice President.
I'm Lanie, and I'm the chief editor.
And I'm Sumedha Budaraju, and I'm an author in THC. So I wanted to talk about the fear of growing up. So I'm the type of person who always worries about my future, even though I don't show it. So many of my friends or family don't know that I have this fear, I guess. So when my mom was younger, she would always talk about how she couldn't wait to grow up, and she was excited to leave the house, I guess. But I always felt scared about it. So I wanted to see what your opinions were about.
I think there's this contingency for a lot of kids or people who are younger to always want to be older in a sense. I remember when I was younger, I really wanted to be older. I just wanted I wanted to feel superior, I guess, in a sense, because age kind of determines that. Because I don't know, it just does. It feels like that. But I didn't realize the amount of responsibility, the amount of things that carry on with that is so burdenous. I would want to go back, to be honest. And I'm worried about the future still, still growing up. We're not even that old. I'm 16. So it's we have such a long road ahead of us too. So
I definitely feel a common sense going on with Saibrinda here. When I was younger, I definitely wanted that feeling to grow up. I felt like I was being kidded around a lot. People would always treat me like that little kid, and I think that sort of mentality got to me very weirdly and oddly. It kind of made me oh, you need to grow up. Why couldn't I be born earlier? And these were the thoughts and things that I kept in mind a lot. And I've noticed that when I grew up and became older over time, it's um, sometimes that mentality still exists, but that fear of growing up is it gets stronger. I've noticed that through the work that comes with growing older, there comes that fear behind it. And an example is, as high school students, we notice that when we grow up, we have more responsibilities, we realize. We have more toils and obstacles we need to face. We realize the next stage of our life that we need to go through. And I think realizing that the reality of that responsibility weight coming onto us is just very burdensome and it's just very strong. And to me, it just gets to me in a way where I'm oh my gosh, this is scary.
Yeah, I think it's pretty idealistic to think, oh, I don't want to grow up. And, there's in your childhood and when you're youth, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's the feeling of your innocence being taken away. And I think that honestly, yeah, your innocence is being taken away, and they say ignorance is bliss and whatnot, and I feel a lot of us feel that way. But at the same time, if it's not us bearing the responsibilities of taxes or just any, I guess, responsibilities that come with being an adult, I feel that burden falls on our parents. And so a lot of the time for me, I kind of want to grow up so that I can take those issues and responsibilities into my own hands, because I feel really, I guess, for lack of a better word, bad for my parents when I don't have any way of financially, I suppose, assisting them. So that just sort of is reason for me to still feel as though I want to grow up?
That's definitely like a different way to look at it. I haven't really thought about that because I guess I'm selfish. Wow. So, like I haven't really thought about that, but I'm always like scared of the unexpected, I guess. So like that's mostly what it is when I'm scared of like growing up. It's because like I don't know how my life is going to be. And like I'm scared of the outcomes. Like, would I even be financially stable to help my parents if I wanted to? Or I don't know, am I going to be a disappointment?
Definitely, because when you grow up, you realize that you have all of these responsibilities set now. Like, you have no one to assist you. Like, you learned all of these things growing up, and now, like, you're independent and you have to take on these responsibilities. And it's very wow. Like, now that I'm growing up, I have to learn to take these responsibilities, do them on my own, and also it kind of goes back to what Lonnie's saying, like there's that fear of like, will I be able to support those who supported me now? Like, will I be able to return, I guess, quote unquote, the favor? It's very like we've learned to take initiative, but it's just the scary part, like of like, can I do it? Like, will I be able to succeed? Like, I think behind all of this, there's also the fear of just failure, just being able not to do it right. And it's very scary.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think I constantly worry about the future. It's something like that's really bad. Like my mom usually tells me that too. Like she always tells me to stop worrying about like the future, just like worry about the present, study whatever you were like studying. Don't worry about what you're going to get on the test, right? But it always like scares me. Like if I do bad on a test, I always think of the consequences that's gonna occur in college, or like will I even get into college or something like that. And in terms of that too, I used to have a lot of stress. Like I would like almost have a panic attack during like midterm seasons or something like that, and it used to be really bad. And that fear and that stress really worried me more about the future, because it was like I was in 8th grade and I was worried about the midterms that I'm gonna have. How am I gonna do in the future? Like I won't even be able to deal with what I will have in high school. So that's something that I've always like worried about too. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. Like with financially, like will I be able to support my family? Like will I get into a good college? Yeah.
This might be slightly off topic, but it's relating to what Sai said. I think your mom is like extremely right about not worrying so much about the future. Like to some degree, worry about the future and know that you will have a future and that you should plan out your future, but focus on the present, because I feel as though failures, like small failures, aren't as bad as we make them seem. Like sometimes we can get in our heads and stuff like that, but for the most part, the failures like really help you learn more, experience more. They help you step out of your comfort zone and out of your own bubble if you think of it in from a different perspective, if you don't let it hold you back. And I don't want to minimize like your emotions about failing an exam, but really those exams and like that one test that you may have failed, like or gotten a C on and called that a fail, like that doesn't dictate your entire future. That doesn't dictate a large portion of your future. It just dictates that one test. And it's not really like measure it doesn't it's not indicative of who you are. If you really want to be successful in the future, like you shouldn't be held back by one test, and you should keep trying to find methods to grow aside from just scholarly growing, I don't know, scholastically growing.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. But like, because I don't really ever worry about school much, which is kind of odd. Like, I'll worry about not doing good on a test or something. But I don't think about like that's gonna affect my future a lot. Like I'm gonna fail in life or something because I'm like I can fix it. It's fine. I can bring my grade back up. It'll be totally okay. So like it's not school. I think it's mainly just like the environment around me and like the people around me. Like things constantly change in that way. And even school, like what Saibrinda said, like when I think about like going from high school to college, like college is definitely going to be like 10 times harder. But I feel like as I grow up, I'm also going to know how, like, I'm going to get better as I grow up. Like, I'm not going to be the same freshman person as I am. And like 2 years later, I'm not going to be the same person later. Like, I'm just going to have different things and I'm going to change, obviously. So, in that way, I'm like totally fine with anything I do. That made sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I feel like sometimes I tend to put a lot of pressure on the little things, which I shouldn't, but it's gotten much better over the years, I've learned. But still, I feel like I tend to like I have like a lot of expectations, I guess, for myself, not just like my parents, like but for myself too. So like when I disappoint myself, I tend to like feel really bad about it. But then again, I also have like this positive like influx, I guess. Like I'll always be able to bring it up, like, you're not that bad at it, like you're kind of smart, you'll be able to achieve it and stuff like that to keep me motivated. But yeah, I totally understand what you mean about like growing up in terms of going to college and everything being like harder.
Yeah, that was actually me when I was younger, like in elementary school was really when I would freak about like the smallest of things. I remember like I would get a ham, which is basically a homework assignment missing, and it would be like I didn't do my homework, so I have to go get my mom's signature, and I would freak out about that. Like I would hide it from her and I wouldn't show it to her, and then I just ended up getting in more trouble. But like now that I think about it, it was like I just missed a homework assignment. It's not that big of a deal. I literally could have just told my mom.
I'm not trying to like place blame or anything on like parents and just like families, but it's sort of like a cultural thing for us to think, oh my God, like this test means so much to me. Like if I fail this, like my parents are gonna be disappointed. I'm gonna be disappointed for disappointing them. And I feel like, yeah, like I definitely feel that. And that fear of failure really just held me back from experimenting and from seeking out more experiences, like I mentioned before, getting out of my bubble. And like I have social anxiety to some degree because of those fears. And so I think that the thing about growing up is that we get to sort of break away from any beliefs and constant like brainwashing that our parents might put on us. We kind of break away from those thoughts and that sort of mentality, and we we have to, because we're going independent, we have to meet new people, we get to see new perspectives, we get to see like this entire world outside our bubble that can probably change the way that we think, and perhaps for the better, like improve that mentality of constantly being afraid of failure or thinking that you're the center of attention or something like that. Any sort of, you know, limiting behavior or thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, especially as like a person who has Asian parents. I feel like I like they have much more expectations on us, especially since like I have a lot of cousins too. So it's like the expectation and the bar is much higher. So they like I feel like I always have this mentality of like, oh, I have to get A's, I have to get 100%, I can't get a 95, I have to get 100. But now I think being in like a different environment where B is okay, like it's okay. Um, I feel like it's a lot easier on yourself because you don't disappoint yourself as much. But I also feel like comparison is a really like big problem. Like not only do my parents compare me to other people, but I feel like I compare myself to others too a lot. And I like don't know how to stop it. I feel like it's just like natural.
I agree, and like I think that natural feeling that comes in us has been like it has been integrated to me, and I agree with everyone else going on here. I think it's like that fear like has been built into me, like, and it's still there, it's still present, and I definitely have that sort of mentality where I'm like it's not pressure, but it's like it is pressure. It's kind of like pressure, like that feeling where you are inclined to just meet an expectation or just fulfill like a good deed or a mark so that you can so that you can please someone else or even yourself. And I think that's where a lot of fear comes, and that's like that also ties in with the fear of growing up. It's really because it sticks, and it's like that mentality is like how you live your life as to others and how you want to live for others. And so that has been with me for a long time. But I'm coming to realize that when you really consider the mentality of comparing and the mentality of meeting an expectation to please others, it can be very, one, discouraging, and just two, it's unhealthy. It's something that it just takes more of your energy than it should. And it ties back into things that we've talked about before. It's more about living in the present and focusing on the present, knowing that it will help your future, rather than you spend so much time on your future and like what you want your ideal future to be, so that you have all of that pressure to live your life in the present, which is very inundating, and it can be very just it's just so tedious. That and those are the things and those are the factors that build up to this common sense fear of future, growing up, and just you meeting expectations of others. And I think those are all tied in together interchangeably.
Yeah, it's like definitely weird for me though, because if my parents or if someone compares me with someone, I find it discouraging and I don't really like it. But sometimes when I compare myself to someone else, I find it more motivating, like, oh, I can do better, I can do better. But like I don't think I should be thinking like that, because like you said, it's not really a healthy way of thinking, I guess. But yeah, and as we grow older, like expectations change too. So like before, like compared to when I was 4 years old and now I'm 15, there's gonna be like a lot of more expectations that my parents have for me, especially since like I'm the second child. So my brother went to a good college, and now I feel like that's like the bar now. Like he set the bar, and now I have to go like above and beyond, like better than him.
Yeah, like when you're younger, people are like, "Oh my God, you're so cute," and like every single little thing you might do, it's like even like write a little story. They're like, "Oh my God, you're such a genius," and stuff like that. And they start placing expectations on you when you're really young, but like they don't, not to the degree of like junior high and like high school and stuff like that, but they slowly but steadily start to say, oh, you're so smart, and they're like thinking about your future. They're like, oh, she's gonna become a doctor, or that's a little too exaggerated, but like it's sort of that idea. And I guess going I guess a little more back to growing up, we were still on the topic, but this might be oddly specific, but I think the years 20 through 30, I want to like Peter Pan throughout, like just stay within that range. Because I feel like that's the part, like for growing up, I think that's the part of life where it's like everything is new and like you're an adult. So it's like, oh my God, like what am I getting into? But then also just like, you're young and you have like freedom. And then after 30, what happens is that your job, after you've like finished up graduate school and like, you know, part-time jobs and whatnot, after that, it's like you're just sitting at a desk. Okay, wait, for my example, at least, if I'm doing computer science, I'm just gonna be sitting like in my cubicle and I'm just gonna die there. Like that's the fear for me.
Yeah, I feel you because I always think about that too. But I'm low key like trying to get with it now because like I want to be a doctor. So I'm like when I grow up, like I can't wait to grow up and save people, but at the same time, I don't want like the responsibilities. But then I also want to get married, have children. Like there's so much in life that I want to see, but I also want to be able to like go back and do other things. So it's like, but that's not possible. So it's like when I do something else, I'm missing the other.
Yeah, there are always like trade-offs. And like I see from my parents sometimes, like they're kind of old now. No, I'm kidding. But so sometimes like they'll work like I think at least 75% of the year and have that 25% of the rest of the year to hang out with like their family, go on vacation and stuff like that. That kind of sounds nice, but at the same time, it's like a whole 75% of that. What is 75% of 12? 9? I don't know. Okay. So like it's that much percent or 9 months of them just working from like night to day to night, not seeing their children because their children are at work, and then when they get home and stuff like that, they're like crashing. But yeah, I think that it's such like a life sucks. No, like it's so sad, and I think that's why like going back to that 2030 thing, it's like, you know, got the youth, you got your youth, you don't have that many commitments, you're barely stepping out into the adult life, but growing up from there on, I'm not too happy about.
Wait, isn't that us right now though? We literally go to school at like 8 a.m., come back, and then we're just working on homework all day long. And that's literally us for like 9 months, and then we get 3 months of summer break.
Well, I think at least for, I know uni, or I think uni, like my brother, sorry, brother, insert name. He kind of messes around a lot. Like, yeah, I don't see him like, I don't know, college life kind of sounds fun. Like, I might not be in college, so that's probably why. But like, it seems like you can be a student, but then there's like a whole world, like a whole entire like a bunch of clubs maybe. I hope it's different from high school. That's what I'm imagining. But yeah, there's like a whole thing where you can like drive wherever you want, go to the beach like whenever you want, instead of being like, Mom, can I go to the beach? And she's like, no, it's 9 p.m.
For college are like really high now. So I'm scared that like when I go to college, I'm gonna be disappointed because I low-key had a lot of expectations for high school too, because of High School Musical and all the TV shows I watched. But like it didn't meet it in the slightest. So it's like I want college to be what like how you're describing it, and like all the videos I see, and it seems so cool. So I hope it's like that.
Yeah, I kind of am looking forward to the freedom, I guess, because I as like as like a person who has brown parents, I can't really go anywhere. Like even if I ask them, it's like, oh, who's going with you? If it's like if I list out like a certain like I have to list out like a certain like person or like someone that they know, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, fine, you can go. But even in that situation, it's like they just don't want me going anywhere, and I don't understand this contingency. Like the other day, I asked my mom. I was like, after quarantine, can I like have a sleepover with my friends, right? And she was like, no. And I was like, wait, what? And I was really confused because I was like talking to my sister, and my sister has sleepovers all the time and stuff. So I was like, you know, like a movie night. And she was like, oh, at our house? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, that's fine then. So it's like she just has this like, I guess, fear of letting me outside of like the house, and it's kind of really annoying. And yeah, I feel like I'm like really looking forward to the freedom because I genuinely don't know how that feels. So yeah.
Sad times, our first taste of freedom will probably be like while the coronavirus is still happening. Also, I feel like if a college student happens to hear this, they'll probably be like, y'all are too like idealistic, like this is not how college is. Like it's so much worse. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably like a lot of work. Like I'm sure of that. It's just like just having that slight bit of freedom kind of feels better. And also not being stuck at home all the time seems kind of like fun. I mean, like, okay, even before quarantine, I feel like I was stuck at home all the time. Like, even if my friends invite me over, like, I would have to, like I said, like, I would have to list out the people that were going. And if it's like, I would list out, like, certain names. And she's like, oh, is Lanie going? And I'm like, yeah. And then she'd be like, oh, okay, then you can go. So it's like, it's really odd. Like, bro, my mom loves you. But besides that, it's like it's just like it's kind of just this contingency, and like I really hate it because I ask her if I can go to the mall, and she's like, oh, is there a parent supervision? I'm like, no. And then she's like, okay, fine, who's going? And I'm like, I have to list it all out. So it's just like looking forward to that little like bit of freedom. Like you can study wherever you want, you can go to the beach to study, you can do whatever you want, like you can go study wherever you want. Just feels like really nice.
I definitely agree. Like just thinking about that, like it's very like, especially in the moments where you're like, it's like really feeling that kind of like that feeling of being locked up at your home all the time. Like you have these restrictions. Like just thinking about like that next stage of your life and just being able to explore, learn like new things, get out in the world, and just really like adventure. I think that is a really motivating and encouraging part that kind of diminishes the fear of growing up. Really, it's just that encouraging kind of just like when you grow up, like this is what you'll get. Like you will have that sense of excitement, that sense of freedom, getting out more. And I think that is like a really motivating and encouraging factor that kind of like makes me forget the fear of growing up.
That's a nice tie. What was I gonna say? Wait, so like, yeah, even though I'm like a bit of a homebody, like, is that how you say it? It's living with Asian parents or like overprotective parents is kind of like living every day of your life in quarantine. Like even if you step out of the house with your parents, like home is right next to you. They're just watching every step of your like existence. No. But I think like their overprotectiveness is slightly justified. Like I wouldn't even let myself out of the house because I don't really trust me. So I don't know.
Oh my god.
Go as you will with that.
That's honestly, that's kind of like a mood. Like I feel that, but at the same time, it's like that little freedom that you want, you don't get. Like I have to like ask my parents continuously. Like I had to beg them, like, and ask them if I can go, and then they'd be like, "Is there any boys?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, no! Like calm down. Like you know what I mean? Like they don't trust me at all, and I don't even think it's trust. I just think it's like." Just that mentality, like what if something happens to like my daughter, like what if someone does something to her, what, like, you know, it's just really annoying.
Yeah,
Same.
more that they don't trust like other people, and I think they trust you a lot, but it's like they don't trust the people around you, and like the outside world is dangerous to our precious daughter, so it's like they don't want anything happen. But like, yeah, no, because some things I think my mom is like totally unreasonable about. Like the other day, like not even the other day, she's been asking me this for like 3 years, but she's always like, "You have a secret boyfriend?" No, yes, and I'm like, "Bro, no, I don't." But like, she somehow doesn't believe me. But then other times she'll let me go out with my friends. It's confusing.
That's nice. I can't even walk like one block outside my house without my parents being like, opens the door. Where are you going? What's happening?
Yeah, I feel that like that overprotectiveness kind of gets overbearing.
I just realized we're all Asian here.
I think it's a lot worse for like Asian kids because like not only do you have like my mom is like really influenced by her friends too. So it's like not only do like their own parents and their friends influence them, but like just that overprotectiveness, that like that feeling of your kid has to be the greatest, that your kid has to be the best in the family, she has to be like the leading light in this like community and stuff like that. It's really really annoying. Like every single time I talk to my like mom, like it's so bad. Like she anything I talk to her about, it's always like back to like something like SAT or like SAT subject test or something like that. Like the other day, I went up to her and I was like, oh my god, look at these like lip glosses, they look so cool, right? And my mom was like, wow, oh my god, are you doing this instead of doing SAT subject test? Like I'm like, yo, like let me enjoy my life just a little bit. Like she sees the schedules that I give myself like to study, and still like last night I was up at like 1:30, I think that's when she came in, and that's when like I finished everything and I went to my bed finally, and my mom is like, you are sleeping early. Like she's like she's like really like, I guess, sarcastic, but like mean sarcastic. She always brings everything back into like studies, so it's just a lot.
That's the model minority for you. Sarcasm implied. Please don't take me seriously.
For real.
Gosh, we gotta hide this podcast from our parents.
It's a looping.
Not have her listening to this be like, is she complaining about me? Oh, of course not.
It's a cultural thing.
All the non-Asian all the non-Asian kids with strict parents are crying though.
I've actually never seen that. Oh my god.
I don't know. I'll see people say that they have strict parents, but I don't know if that actually happens.
But in all reality, it is a very, like, definitely we've seen it in our culture. It's a very Asian thing. But nevertheless, it's variant. So some people experience this kind of fear in different ways. And it's like, it's prominent in society. We see this fear, and we see this fear of growing up, especially in our lives. But I think one important thing we covered in our discussion was just the ability to remember an encouragement, just encouraging ourselves and thinking mentally about where we are in the present and what we could look up to. Like, it's really about how we think about situations and how we think about ourselves growing up. And I think that fear of growing up is really because we think of the fears, we think of the risks behind it, when in reality we can just really think about the encouragement and the motivation that gets us to continue to push forward.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. That we need to be conscious about like, just like that we need to be conscious about those aspects and knowing that, you know, it's all a part of growing up and that we need to, you know, improve ourselves basically for as we grow up.
Well, with that being said, I think we had a very good discussion altogether about the consideration and the thinking of the fear of growing up. And it's important to consider all of these backgrounds. So I do think that when we do have the fear of growing up, we really just need to have that mindset and mentality of just really considering the encouragements, the words in which we can just really encourage ourselves and think about the benefits of the future and what we can get out of it, instead of having that fear of failure, and really living our minds, even if it's in the present, with meaningfulness and just being able to think healthy, just having those thoughts of pushing forward, encouraging oneself and ourselves. So I think we really need to just consider the background of that. This concludes our podcast episode on where we talk about the fear of growing up. You can learn more about fear and how we deal with fear in our team by checking out our articles or any other content that we provide at thehavencommunity.net. We provide a YouTube channel and Instagram in which you can see all the links provided in our website or any of our social channels. To learn more about us, visit our website or contact us at contact@thehavencommunity.net, and tune in for the next episodes of The Haven Community Inside the Teenage Mind.